Hey travelers, and welcome to part 3 where we continue on through the patch notes. We are all the way down at mechanics. If you haven't seen part 1 or part 2 yet, definitely check those out as we have covered everything in the patch notes so far. Now for mechanics, we see some big improvements in mechanics, especially in the minions section. So as we move down, you'll see for minion movement, updated the AI for player minions. Wolves had most of these changes in 8.1, and if you played with the Beastmaster and the Wolves or any of the Primalist classes with the Wolves, you know they felt like the best minion because they did basically what you wanted them to do. They attacked where you wanted to do. They kind of followed your mouse cursor more than they followed your character, which was really nice. But we have also made additional improvements. Minions now follow you at your movement speed rather than starting and stopping. So instead of them like running really fast to catch up to you, sitting as you're still moving and then a gap is created, they'll now just kind of follow you smoothly, you could say. Minions stick closer to the player in general. Minions now prioritize targets close to the player. So instead of them running off and attacking something that's halfway 2 screens away, they'll now attack basically what it is you want them to attack, and that is what it's about to attack you, the closest enemy that you have. Minions move more quickly to get back into attack range of enemies. So they don't quite leap, but they now move much faster, getting back to the enemies and attacking much quicker. Minions play catch-up speed when falling behind the player, and it now scales with player speed. Minions ignore collisions with other actors when they are having trouble moving into attack range of an enemy. I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around when it says when they are having trouble. So this is a like only if they're having trouble, so it detects when they know they're having trouble. So somehow it's detecting collisions and then it allows them to move through it. I don't know why it's not just removed at all, but we'll see how that works out. Minions ignore collisions with other actors when returning to the player from a long distance. This means that I have a feeling we're going to see some really cool graphical things where minions are flying over water or something, but hopefully they stay inside the play area. Fixed a bug that caused minions to run in place in some situations. It's not just minions that run in place. I see this with a lot of things. Fix the bug which caused minions to be slower to switch from following to entering combat than intended. This will make it feel much better when entering combat with your minions. It won't feel so laggy and like where you're running for your life because the minions are just staring at you like, what do I do, man? Mana. Reduced base mana regen from 10 to 8. Huge nerf, but before you get into it being a huge nerf, because that sounds really crappy since we have a lot of mana issues already, there are so many places where mana regen has been buffed, and we're about to get into some more. So you can actually get much more mana regen than you had before, but now you have to build into it. Added mana regen effects to multiple nodes and passive trees as described in the passive sections. I believe we did that in part 2. We talked about how almost every class now has a way to get mana regen up to about, I want to say it was roughly about 20% inside of your passive trees, which puts you back up to that 10 mana per second. Greatly increase the values of increased mana regen affix. Max T5 has gone from 17% to 35%. That means they have doubled the amount of regen that you can get through crafting mana regen affixes, which means you can get much higher than you could before. Before, like, the Shaman is the one that I want to say that I've most troubleshooted with mana, because you could get to a point where you could sustain and still have all your skills going off. Getting to 19 mana per second was really hard, but now you should have no problem getting above 20. The increased mana regen affix is now twice as common. The increased mana regen affix can no longer roll on gloves, reducing the amount of items that you could have on 4 down to 3, but you can now roll it on belts and amulets. So it was at 4, it dropped to 3 right there for a second, had your hopes down, boom, back up. You can now put it on 5 items. So not only can you put it on 5 items, but it now can roll double the amount that you were getting before. So a lot more mana regen than previous that you could get. So you can really build into it. Added mana can no longer roll on boots, but can now roll on gloves, so it just flip-flopped there. Removed the mana efficiency affix. Not a big deal. It was only like 10% at tier 5 anyway. No one really ever used it. This is a big one. Urzel's Pride grants 1% increased mana regen per 3% lightning resist from 1% per 5% lightning resist. What this means is if you have 300% lightning resist, instead of getting 60 mana regen, you now get 100% more mana regen. However, it's not as big a buff as you think because the base mana regen is 8, not 10 anymore. So these ones that give you a big boost are not giving you as much as you previously thought. So 100% mana is roughly equal to what it is already. So while this is a buff to Useless Pride, overall you're not getting a huge buff in the amount of mana regen that you're getting. Ulnavar's Claim grants 16 to 24% increased mana regen from 10 to 20. Again, after you take in the fact that the base mana regen is 8 and not 10, this isn't as big of an increase as it first looks like. For armor, this is a huge change. Medium to high amounts of armor now result in more mitigation, though the 85% limit is unchanged. So there still is an 85% cap of the amount of armor you can have for 85% physical damage reduction. But armor is now 70% effective against non-physical elements from 50%. So before, right now, if you had 85% armor, that means that you would have 42.5% reduced damage of all the other elements. Now it's at 70% efficiency instead of 50, which means at 85% armor, you now get 59.5% damage reduction. So that's another 17% damage reduction of all the other elements. That is huge. That is a lot of damage reduction. So armor is officially more effective now. Other changes: fixed a bug where the increased Shadow Daggers effect stat reduced the number of Shadow Daggers required for its damage to proc. Apparently this was a bug. I didn't even know that. As a compensation buff, the damage of Shadow Daggers has been increased by 100%. This is a huge nerf to a lot of builds because instead of getting to that 150% Shadow Dagger effect or 250% Shadow Dagger effect to reduce the number of hits that it takes for that critical plunge to happen from 4 down to 2 or 4 down to 1 respectively, it's now going to take all 4 hits, which means like the new Puncture build I just put out where it was a 250% Shadow Dagger effect, so every hit that you did with punctured and just did great damage with the Shadow Dagger, it would now take 4 hits to accomplish that, but the Shadow Dagger itself will do more damage. So those crits would be even bigger, but it takes 4 hits to do it. I'm not going to say that that makes or breaks builds, but it definitely reduces their efficiency, and they probably won't perform as well as they will. I won't say probably. They will not perform as well as they were in the damage department, but they might still be viable. Abilities now start off cooldown when loading a character. Gold shrines now drop 400% more gold. That's great for all of you gold diggers out there. As we move down, we have the user interface. As many of you know, we went over this whole new map. You can zoom in, you can see things in great detail, and they've even got the timeline all lined out for you. The UI just looks amazing in this game. I can't wait to see this. You can really get involved in the world of Edera now. An overview: every part of the UI has been updated with new visuals, including headers, frames, buttons, functional elements, and decorations. Many windows and panels have also been substantially redesigned and have new functionality. We've seen that with your inventory, your blessings, your crafting, your stat. Everything's just been changed. World map and quest. Replace the maps for all 4 eras with brand new, incredibly detailed versions. The map fills the entire screen and you can zoom in. The functionality of the quest journal has been incorporated with the new world map. You can now view more details of all the current and past quests without leaving the map. Lootfilter. Huge changes to the Lootfilter. Affix conditions which specify multiple affixes can now be configured to only apply to items which have multiple of the specified affixes, meaning that you can now filter for an item needing to have more than one affix on it, which is awesome. This means you can get as specific as saying, I only want tier 20 items with these 4 affixes. Literally get that specific. You'll never find anything like that, but you will be able to get that specific. I haven't decided where my threshold will be for the loot filters that I update for all of my guides. I'm thinking that we're going to aim for 3 affixes with a minimum of tier 10, but we'll see. I might have to put in like a couple of them, but loot filters might exceed the 75 rules if we go too many of them. For example, you can now highlight items which have both melee physical damage and increased physical damage. Added an advanced section for affix condition, which allows you to specify what tier an individual affix must be or the total number of affixes of tiers on an item. So say that you don't care about ailments on a weapon, but you really want that melee physical damage and increased physical damage. You can literally go on it and say, I want to have 2 tier 5 affixes of this and this, and tier 1 affixes of this and this. You can literally get that specific as a minimum so that something can drop. It could have any tier that you want for the ailments, but it must have the tier 5 that you want of the melee physical damage and whatnot. Like, how specific you can get now is either going to make or break loot filters to where they show no items, or you'll be able to easily find what it is that you want. The question is, will the new item drop rates make it to where these type of items drop that good enough for you to have them actually appear for you? Inventory. Added a blessing tab used for viewing all of your active blessings and tracking what blessings are available for each timeline. It also shows you how powerful your blessings are in comparison to a maximum rule. The cosmetic window has been integrated into the inventory as a separate appearance tab. The cosmetic store is still unavailable, however, and no additional cosmetics have been added. More of this system will be made available in upcoming patches. As we know, cosmetic has before been said that it wouldn't be active until 1.0. But maybe it will come before. We'll have to see. But at least you can already see the foundation of it being built. The backgrounds for equipment slots now vary based on what class you're playing. We're getting some separation between the classes. Awesome. Added a display for how much gold, affix shards, runes, and glyphs you have. There is also commas. That's not mentioned here, but commas have been added as well, so you can actually read numbers that are really big. The idle inventory has been reshaped. See the items to idols for more info. We've already gone over that. It will now have 20 slots instead of 16, and it's kind of been a little more formatted towards a diamond shape than a straight square. The center has been blocked out to where you cannot wear 4 1x4s or 4x1s. You now have to kind of puzzle it in a little bit better. Stash tabs can now be reordered within their category by clicking and dragging. Unfortunately, this doesn't fix some of my problems that I have in my stash tab. I have too many categories and we can't switch those yet. However, categories can be reordered by clicking and dragging. So if you reorder those, you can at least put the categories next to each other to kind of sell. I have 2 different categories that have idols, so I'm going to be able to actually put those closer together, which makes it a little bit easier. However, it would be cool if you can eventually at some point take the reordering of stash tabs and move a stash tab from one category to another, but don't need it right this moment. We got a beautiful picture of the new passive UI. So normally this was a passive tree just on the right side of your screen and your passives worked upwards. Now they're going to be working from left to right, and it's graphically much more appeasing to the eye. It's going to be awesome. So for passives now progress from left to right and are in a horizontal window. This provides more real estate for showing additional information and further expansion of the passive system in the future. Get pumped about that. Passives will be seeing a change sometime in the future or be expanded upon. Mastery bonuses and skills are now always shown when viewing a mastery rather than being a tooltip. This means that you can literally see all of it from just the blink of an eye, and it doesn't require you to hover over anything. Each node has been increased in size to better recognize each passive. It is now easier to tell what passives are available before and after choosing a mastery. For crafting, totally redesigned the panel, making it more streamlined. You can now upgrade affixes that are already on an item without having to manually select what type of affix shard, meaning that you don't have to go below and click on it again. Now it's already there, you can just click on it. The affix list in the crafting window has been brought into its own separate sub-window along with the ruins and glyphs. We got some ward changes. Ward is now additionally displayed as a meter above the health bar. The ward bar no longer intuitively reflects changes in ward. If you gain ward, the fill bar now always goes up or stays the same if it was already full. If you lose ward, the fill now always goes down. The separator tick are now dynamic, e.g. allowing 250% of max health to be shown when a full bar using by ticks at 40% and 80%. The max ward shown on a bar resets back towards 100% of max health over time if the bar is not full. It resets faster when the current fill is low and especially set up to have minimal impact when you're at high fill and take a large hit, allowing the hit to have a big visual impact on the fill. This means that it should be visually more noticeably when you take damage if you're looking at that bar, and that's how you recognize if you've taken damage is off of that bar. You should now visually be able to see, oh fuck, I'm in trouble. Health bars. Health bar visuals have been improved and now take up less vertical space on the screen by displaying the names inside of the health bars themselves. We went over this in a patch preview before, but they look much better, but they're now cleaner. They're more of a horizontal bar. There's no listed affixes below. You know, the name is in the bar itself so that you can see instantly what it is that you're dealing with. Minion icons at the top of the screen have been visually updated as well. The game guide is being updated as well. They added a section for ailments, which describes ailment mechanics and scaling, as well as describing several common types of ailments. Added a page for increased item rarity. Updated various pages to account for changes made in 8.2. Other UI changes. Added an option to lock the mouse cursor to the game window under game settings, disabled by default. This means that if you have multiple monitors, as some of us do, and you're running, say, the arena, you no longer can accidentally go off screen and click and then lead yourself to an ultimate death. You can now lock your mouse cursor to stay in game. Fixed input not being disabled if the game is in the background. Switch the order of the leave game and exit to desktop buttons to match the order in beta 0.8. Added a commands list for chat, access through the settings button on the top of the window. Boardman's plank now shows a UI buff icon when you have the lightning damage buff. Added a new loading screen tooltip. Base critical strike chance is always 5%, except for damage over time, which cannot crit. Added a UI buff icon for having active buffs from using a potion recently. Level improvements. Visuals. Updated visuals and adjusted the layout of the Tree Cliffs, Divine and Ruined areas. Overhauled the visuals for all zones in Chapter 4. Adjusted lightning settings for better performance throughout the game and to reduce flickering on certain objects. The visuals for Echo of a World now vary based on the era of the timeline you are playing. Added a new void decoration in the ruined area. Added more critters in the background of various levels. There might be an additional secret area to find somewhere in the campaign. Ooh, but what's in the secret area? Is it worth it to find it? That's the real question. Chapter 3. Replace the boss encounter at the end of Chapter 3. Includes totally new art, animations, and abilities. Nice. Chapters 5 and 6. These changes aim to make the game's difficulty ramp up more gradually into Chapters 7 and 8. Imperial Necromancers have 50% more health. Dunras deal 20% more damage and have 20% more health and movement speed. The Imperial Halberdiers, man, I'm so bad with names, deal 7% more necrotic damage and have 40% more health. Giant Scorpion's tail attacks deal 35% more damage. Immortal Overseers deal 56% more necrotic damage and 24% more health. Blood Chimeras deal 19% more spell damage. Desecrated Flesh deals 30% more damage and has 12% more health. Profane Flesh deals more damage, has more health. Fallen Hosprex deals more damage, has more health. Fallen Osprex deals more damage, has more health, and has a shorter lunge cooldown. That thing is gonna fuck some of us up. Imperial Watchers deal 18% more damage and have more minion health. Changes to enemies. We have the Monolith Quest bosses. The God Hunter Argentus deals 14% more damage and has more health. The Ballista in the Argentum Spiral has 15% more damage. Void Shade of Rhea deals 3% more damage and has 3% more health. Frostlich has 13% more health, and his Spirit Beams deal 25% more damage. The Undead Wingarian Matriarch, who I hate, has more damage and more health. Fuck. Lagon deals 15% more damage and has 11% more health in Monolith only. Hearten's Husk deals more damage, has more health. Idols of Ruin has more damage, more health. Emperor of Corpses, more damage, more health. The Blood of Hearts around the edge of the Emperor's Corpses arena explode up to 30% sooner. The exact timing depends on the dragon's health. Husk of Emperor Gasper deals more damage, has more health. Teutomic Flame Burst, more damage. Huret deals more damage, has more health, and the Volcanic Shamans deal 13% more damage and have more health. Overall, more damage, more health. Looks like we're in for a bigger fight. Other changes: fix the bug where monster mods that were supposed to have higher values for rare enemies had this higher value applied to all enemies. This base value of the following mods has been adjusted to compensate. Increased damage. Non-rare enemies now deal 2 to 3% less damage. Regenerates health. Non-rare enemies now regen 5% less. Rare enemies now regen 14% more. Physical, fire, etc. Resistance shred. Non-rare enemies now apply 1 stack on hit from 3. The Heartbreak's Orient now that you can find in the arena and monolith has been updated to use the same abilities that he uses in the Ultra Cliffs. For visual upgrades, Ice Barrage, Fireball, Cinder Strike, the bow version now have lights. What this means is when you cast a fireball, the light from the fire will now move with the fireball. They will look visually more stunning is what's going to happen. Adjusted all versions of Fire Aura. Updated the base visuals for Hungering Souls. Updated the single soul variant of Hungering Souls. Updated the fire conversion for Hungering Souls. Hungering Souls got updated. Infernal Shade fire visuals are less noisy and slightly more orange. Infernal Shade blood version slightly updated the shade to look more opaque. Why did they use such fancy words? I don't even know what that means. The shield visual for shield throw now rotates. This is awesome. Adjusted the visuals for tornado. Ice bat breath attack is slightly less visually noisy. Improved the sword trail effect for Imperial enforcers. Adjusted lightning wisp enemies to be less visually noisy. Improved the visuals for fireballs used by skeleton cryomancers. And the void amalgamathem's lightning beam has less distortion around him. I know I pronounced that wrong. You can make fun of me later. For animations, improved the character animation for Harvest, improved the animation timing for melee attacks used by primal wolves. For sound, added an option to mute game audio while the game is in the background, added 16 new tracks in the following places. Thank God, if we can get a hold of these, because it's going to be some new music for the videos I do. I know you guys are getting tired of hearing the same thing over again, but the following places have new music tracks. The End of Ruin, Majosan Desert, Wrath Dunes, Imperial Majelka, Sapphire Quarter, Oracle's Abode, Majekan Catacombs, Titan's Canyon, Majekan Waste Station, Desert Waste Station, Lower Sewers, Barren, Aqueduct. I think I got that one. Necropolis of the Deep, the Shade of Orbis. Improved music variety in standard monolith echo layouts. A given track is used in no more than 2 echo layouts. Added new sound effects for swipe. Updated various sounds for many enemy types, including Mud Harvester, Smoldering Lithrak, Venom Weaver, Imperial Guard, Siege Cap, just a whole bunch. I'm not going to read all those. Controller support. This patch does a lot to make moment-to-moment gameplay feel better on gamepad. We plan to continue making improvements, including gamepad-specific UI controls. The tooltip for the nearest item on the ground is now shown automatically while you are stationary. Pressing up and down on the D-pad while stationary will change which item on the ground you have selected. Pressing the A button Xbox layout will now pick up the nearest item that is in the range of player. Chests and NPCs can also be selected without moving the cursor and have priority over items on the ground. You can now switch between auto-targeting and targeting at the cursor by moving the left and right joystick respectively. Auto-targeting is used while moving. The menu button Start on Xbox layout now closes dialog windows. Fix the bug where the size of the cursor while using a controller varied with display resolution, becoming hard to see at resolutions above 1080p. And then finally, we have the optimization. Greatly improved the performance of organizing item labels on the ground, particularly with high number of items. The process takes 85% less time when there are around 140 items close together. Improved shadow performances for zones throughout the game, and refactored how data for enemies, minions, and the player are stored. This doesn't have a direct performance benefit, but will help us moving forward. So all good things. Optimization, of course, improves with every patch. Now, there is one more section, and that's bug fixes. I am just going to scroll through these. I'm not even going to read them. There's about 400, and it would take me about 25 more minutes to read every one of these. However, I'm going to put the link for this in the guide or in the description below, and you can click on it and read through all of the bugs that were fixed. Alright, that's going to be it for part 3 and for all of the patch notes. We got through all of it. I am super excited. There is a lot of new stuff coming. Tell me what your most exciting feature is that's coming to Last Epoch in this patch. Go ahead and put it in the comments below, and I'll make sure to read it. On top of that, my most exciting thing, I think is going to be the mana regen for implicit changes, that is. Of course, I'm the most excited about, of course, the Monolith of Fate and having something in endgame that is going to be more playable. But those implicits on the rings and the fact that mana regen has been looked at changes so many different builds and how we build into it. I'm really excited to see how that acts with all the different classes. Alright, that's where I'm going to leave you. As always, stay safe, travelers.